And we are live. It's your favorite insurance agent, Darnold Jr. And if you are watching it live, go ahead in the comments, type hashtag live. If you're watching the replay, type hashtag replay. First of all, I'd just like to apologize about my face. I didn't have a stroke or anything. I just came from the dentist, and this anesthesia is being a beast to wear off. But I'm okay. Everything's great. And so I'm super excited about today because we have the godfather of networking. So if you want to learn how to monetize your networking efforts, this is the show to tune into. Let's get lit. Even though I had my dentist appointment earlier today, I did not want to cancel this appointment. I was like, we got to maintain it. My dentist appointment was actually yesterday, and then they pushed it to today. But it doesn't matter because we have the godfather of networking on the line. And without any further ado, let's bring it on. This is Pablo. Hey, what's up, Pablo?
Darlo, how you doing? I am fantastic, man. I always tell people that I'm always truly blessed and highly favored. So I really appreciate you having me on your show.
That's right. Well, I appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come check out the show. And so you have a lot on your plate. You have a extensive resume, a lot of things you've done in the networking space. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? How long have you been doing what you're doing?
Awesome. I'm originally from Ecuador. I was born in Ecuador, immigrated to this country when I was just 6 years old. My parents brought my sister and I over here to the United States, and grew up in New York City almost all my life, and then came to this great state of Texas, Houston, 16 years ago. So my background is in engineering. I'm a civil engineer by profession, but I'm an entrepreneur by heart. One of my passions has always been creating ideas, developing ideas, but most importantly, connecting with people. I've been known as the godfather of networking because I am a big connector of people, and I've been networking almost all my life, all my professional career, almost 24, 25 years. And when I came here to Houston, Darnold, I did not know anyone in this city, Houston. All I knew was my mom, my sister, and my grandmother. And we all know that when we're entrepreneurs and we start our businesses, the least people that are going to support you are your mom, your sister, and your grandma. So basically, I did not have anyone here, did not know of anyone here. So what happened was that I started my career here in Houston in engineering, but I also wanted to continue my entrepreneurship. And I went out looking for chambers. I went out looking for networking groups. I went out looking for networking organizations, and couldn't find one that fit me. One that would combine that entrepreneurial spirit, that professional background that I had. As we all know, the chambers normally would cater to businesses or businesses that are up and coming, businesses that are established. So one of the things that I did was that I couldn't find a group that catered to my needs. So what I did is I went out there and created. I went out there and created what's now called a Small Business Connection. It's a networking organization, networking group that has been running for several years now, about 12 years ago. And pretty much what we do is we help people. We help people connect with one another. We help them create those strategic alliances. And most importantly, we help them capitalize on their networking efforts, because as we all know, there's a lot of people that go out there, they network a lot, they collect a lot of business cards, but a lot of them do not see any results. A lot of them do not get any results. And a lot of people always come to me and tell me, you know what, Pablo, networking doesn't work. Networking doesn't work is because we're working it from a different perspective. And Darno, one of the things that I want to share with your fans, with your people, is how someone can capitalize. And there's the tips and tricks on networking. Here you go. How you could capitalize on your networking efforts, even during tough times or during a pandemic, right? One of the important things is, and I always like to share this with everyone I come across. What you have to understand is that in networking events, you're not there to sell absolutely anything. You heard that right. A lot of people go with the concept that, yes, I'm going to go to a networking event and I'm going to go sell my product, service, or idea. That is the wrong approach. And I'll tell you why. I had an event. I was doing a networking event. We had approximately about, let's round it off to even figures so the math could be easy. I had about 100 people in the room. And then I asked the question to those 100 people. I said, okay, how many of you that are here came to this networking event because you want to share your idea, you want to sell your idea, you want to sell your product, or you want to sell a service? A lot of the people raised their hands. In fact, 98 of them raised their hand, which means that 98%, 98 out of 100, 98% of them were there to sell a product, a service, or an idea. Now, I had the follow-up question, and I said, how many of you are here? And be honest with one another. Let's be honest with each other. How many of you came early in the morning to a networking event and you said, I'm going to go to that networking event because I am going to go and buy a product, buy a service, or buy an idea? You know how many people raised their hands? One person, because you always have one unique person, the exception to the rule, like they say, right? So 1 out of 100, meaning 1% of the people there were there to actually buy something. There's 98% of them selling stuff, but only 1% is going to buy something. So definitely there's a major disconnect when we go to these networking events. So what's the major disconnect? You want to sell your services or your products or your idea, but nobody's there to buy. And then, so how is it that you gap? How is it that you bridge that gap? And one of the things that I tell people is you have to approach networking from a different perspective. And that perspective has to be that you're not there to sell, but you're there to serve. You're there to serve people. You're there to go out there and truly connect with people, hear people's needs. What is it that you need? When you approach somebody, the first thing that people do at networking events is they pull out their business card and they literally shove the business card down your throat. And that person is telling you what that person sells, the best product in the world, the best labs that they ever have, and yada, 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 yada. They'll go on and on and on. Remember, nobody's there to buy anything. In fact, nobody cares about your product. Nobody cares if it comes from the #1 lab. They do not care. You know what happens? What happens is that people are there because they have a need. So instead of going out there and trying to sell your product or giving a person a business card and telling them what is it you do, why don't you stop, go to a networking event and try to connect with 3 or 4 or 5 people and truly listen to what their needs are, because people are going to tell you what their needs are. If someone says, oh, I'm looking to connect with a digital marketer, I'm looking to connect with someone that could develop my website, I'm looking to connect with someone that could create an app, listen to what they're asking. And then this is another great tip. What you do is take notes. Take their business card, put a note in the back of their business card, and then when you go from that event, look at that card and see how you could connect that person or those people that you found a need for, and see how you could connect them with the resources you need. This is going to be a lot different than you're used to. In fact, it's out of the norm. Why? Because you're going to say, okay, so what's in it for me? What's in it for you is that the more people you serve, the more people you help, the more people you become a resource for, the more blessings you're going to get. Why? Because in networking, it's not important how many people you know. What's important is how many people know you. How many people know you? How many people know of your services? And again, you need to start being a servant leader. You need to go out there to these networking events and helping people, provide people with the resources, become a networking cop. What's a networking cop? A networking COP, a networking connector of people. Start connecting people. Start serving these people. Now, the other thing that while we're in the same topic of tips and tricks on networking, the other thing that I also want to bring out is that 3 things. I'm going to share 3 things with you. Number 1, you have to have a clear objective. Like anything else, you have to have a clear objective why you are going to networking events. What is your objective? You have a new service, you have a new brand, you have a new product. whatever the cost may be, or whatever the objective may be, but you have to clearly define it. And then the other thing is, once you identify that objective, number two, you have to identify your key market, your niche market, they call it, your targeted market. Where is the market you're looking for? Where is the targeted market that is going to benefit from the problem you're going to solve? Because any business that is out there is solving a problem. So you have to see where that target market is at. Now, once you develop where, or you figure out where that target market is, you begin looking for networking opportunities that are going to cater to that specific market that you're looking for. The other thing is demographics. Where is your market at? Let's give you an example. If you're focusing on a market in the North Houston area, I don't recommend you go to or focus on going to networking events all the way out in the South, in Pasadena, in Clear Lake. If your market is focused on the North, then focus on organizations in the North. Now, we have to understand that during the pandemic, a lot of the stuff shifted. We all went virtual. We all got connected digitally. We all some of us started networking digitally. Some of us became very creative on how we do our business, how we run our business, and also how we were connecting with other people. The other thing I always tell people also is that in a digital platform, it's no different. Again, even though it's virtual, you still have to have your objective. You still have to determine your target market, and then again identify where your market is. Of course, with the digital world, you have a greater reach. Now, having a greater accessible market is great, but at the same time, you also have to make sure you define or redefine that market, because I know people that have been going through Zoom meetings, through meetups, through various different platforms, networking, and all they've done is attended a networking virtual event, maybe exchanged information, and have not done anything, right? Now, the other thing that I want to also talk to you about is very important. Once you have your objective, once you determine your niche market, once you find your demographics of where you're going to go, the other thing I want to share with you is, once you make a connection, either to serve somebody or either connected with someone or exchange a business card, always remember to follow up. And why I tell you this is because in my early days of networking, I was a business card collector. In fact, I have several boxes of business cards that I never did anything with them. I went to several networking events, collected 20, 30, 40 cards at several events, and eventually had hundreds of business cards and never once followed up. I'd rather you go out there to your networking event, go to that targeted market and connect with 5 to 10 people that are within your market and truly connect with them. Do a follow-up. Now, in the virtual world that we currently live, a lot of people tell me, well, Pablo, how am I going to follow up with them? Before, I used to go to a Starbucks and I used to grab a cup of coffee, sit down and visit with them so we could determine what are each other's needs and then take it from there. No difference. You know how I do my follow-ups? All my follow-ups are virtual follow-ups. I always tell people that I virtually connect with, I always tell them, why don't we just set up a time so we could have 15, 20 minutes and have a virtual cup of coffee. Virtual cup of coffee, you could use any platform that you feel comfortable with. You have Zoom, you have Meetup, Microsoft Meet, anything, WhatsApp, a Messenger, anything. You could do it with anything. And then worst case scenario, remember, we could still use these devices, right? Phone calls. Don't be afraid to use the phone. Give someone a call, 15-minute, 20-minute call. Now, if you go beyond that at the initial meeting of 15, 20 minutes, chances are you're not going to be too effective. right? So that is some of the tips that I have, Darno, where I want to share with your audience and how they could monetize that networking efforts.
Wow. Wow, Pablo. I took so many notes. Like, oh my gosh, my pen is smoking with all the tips and tricks that you handed. And it was very thorough, very creative. And I actually have a few people in mind that I want to send this video to the moment we get off this live because they've been coming to me. They're like, Darno, I've been going to these chamber events and I'm not getting anything out of it. And they're not going in it with exactly what you're talking about. So I'm going to send this to them the moment I get off. And ironically, I don't have any questions. You were so thorough. I appreciate you for sharing the information. But one question I do ask, what are some books that you would recommend as far as networking or even monetizing your business? Like, do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, in terms of networking, there's several great books out there. I know there's a book, I forget the author. I mean, it's in my mind, but it's Never Eat Alone. Never Eat Alone. It's a great networking book. Now, I have been Dr. Meister, the creator of BNI, also has some great books. You could Google them. Right after this interview, I would come up with some of the titles, and I could share it with you in the comments. And but the most important thing is, the books that I think that I would recommend are personal development books, books where you begin changing the way you start thinking, because if you want to make networking very effective, if you want to monetize on your networking, you definitely have to go with a different mindset. I always tell people, always observe the masses and do the opposite, right? Because everybody in a networking event is always there to take something, to take something. You want to be the difference. You want to be the person that stands out and be that servant leader, as I mentioned before. So some of the books that I love is The Magic of Thinking Big. The other book that I love is Who Moved My Cheese? T. Harv Eckert's book, the Millionaire Mind, the Mind of a Millionaire. I would have to get you this exact title. I have them in here in my library. But now the other book that I would also want to share with you, and also I want to share with you that the possibilities that exist. I never thought that I would ever become an author. I'm an engineer by profession. English and writing was never my forte. But you know what? It's okay. It doesn't matter. To become a best-selling author, best-selling author is the one that sells more books. Is not the one that writes the best. It's not the
Mm,
best written author, right? It's the
right.
best selling author. So one of the things that I did is I compile all the my 25 years of personal development. I read the T. Harv Eker's The Magic of Thinking Big, Who Moved My Cheese, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And then I came up with, there was always a common theme in these books. There was always common themes. So then what I did is I started writing and compiling in a 60-page book, my own personal development book, which is the one that, of course, I would highly recommend you get. It's The 7 Secret Codes to Success, right? The 7 Secret Codes to Success is a book that I published right before the pandemic. And what I do is I outline all of the 7 secret codes that I've found over the years to be something that is going to help you grow, is going to help you change that mentality. And just to give you a preview of the stuff that I talk in the book, there's, like I said, it's a 60-page book. You could read it if you're a fast reader, probably in less than an hour. If you're a slow reader like myself, probably an hour, 2 hours. But it's a great book. I talk about how to find your life purpose. I also talk about setting your goals, how to set your goals. A lot of people wait for the very, 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 very end of the year or the beginning of the year to set their goals. You know what? We're in October, November, December. We're in the last quarter. And if you know anything about football, everybody knows about football, but football, there's 4 quarters. There's first quarter, second quarter, halftime, third quarter, fourth quarter, right?
Mhm.
So the analogy that I always make is that it doesn't matter if you're down on first, second, third quarter. What really matters is what you do in your last quarter. You could come back from a loss to winning that game in the fourth quarter with your business, with your personal life, with your goals. Don't wait until January to start setting your goals. Set them up right now, because right now we still have one last quarter that you could change your business. Don't go into that mindset of, okay, October is coming. If you celebrate Halloween and then Thanksgiving is coming and then Christmas and then the year is gone. You know what? The greatest growth I've ever had in any of my networking efforts in my business and my networking organization has always been October, November, December, because when people are now just going into that vacation mode, I am going into that full throttle mode. So remember, set your goals. And I talk a little bit about that concept there. The other thing that I talk about, and it's a common theme across several of the books that I've read, is taking responsibility. Take responsibility for your actions. And I go into a lot of details. I give you some of my own personal stories, stuff that I went through and how I needed to make a change. And then also is accept change. You know what? Change is always going to be constant. One of the things I'm going to share with you is Les Brown. Les Brown is one of my favorite motivational speakers.
Absolutely.
And Les Brown would always say, if you're living life, you're either going to be in a problem, you're going to be coming out of a problem, or like my great Texan friends would say, you're fixing to get into a problem. So the bottom line is you're not going to be able to avoid a problem, but yes, you will be able to fix that problem. It's important how you approach it. So always be adaptable to change, accept change. And a good book that I recommend in this chapter is Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer, Dr. Spencer. And then there's another chapter that I speak about the spoken word, the power of the spoken word. I don't go into religion, but I just speak from scientific perspective of how powerful it is, the words that you say. And remember when I started this video, when I told Arnold that how I was feeling, I would always say truly blessed and highly favored. There was one point that I would just say it and never felt it. And today, the more that I say it, the more that I feel truly blessed and highly favored. Power of your spoken words. Then we have the PMA, not to be confused with PMS. PMA is positive mental attitude. Having a positive mental attitude. And the only thing I'm going to mention in this chapter is you're either going to see the glass half full or half empty. Which way are you seeing it? Then the last chapter that I speak about is an attitude of gratitude. Be thankful, be grateful for every opportunity that you have. I am very grateful and thankful for the opportunity that Darnell had to give me an opportunity to be in his show. Regardless of what his situation was, he accepted his responsibility, he accepted the change, and he made things happen. And be grateful. Be grateful for that moment that you are living now. The past is gone. You're not going to be able to go back to the past. It's only going to live in your mind if you allow it to live in your mind. The future is not here yet. It's now. And here and now, it's what is happening. So always be grateful. And then I also provide them with a bonus code. And the bonus code is to take action. Not just take any action. Take massive action. Remember, folks, we're in the last quarter of this fiscal year 2021. A lot of things could change between October and the end of December. Don't give up. If you have not been winning in the first, second, and third quarter, a whole major change could happen, and you can make the major difference and make it a big win for 2021 in the last quarter. So take massive action. And this is the book that I would recommend, The 7 Secret Codes to Success. And I'll put the link below where you could get this book. And I'll be sure to provide my good friend Darnell a signed copy of this book.
Awesome. I think you missed your calling. I think you should be a motivational speaker. Is that the next step for you, to become a motivational speaker?
I'm working on it.
That's awesome. You're a phenomenal speaker. I appreciate you for being on the show. You shared amazing value. Literally, if people take this and apply it to their lives, it could be a game changer for them. So I appreciate you for sharing them. So how can people get in contact with you? How can they reach out to you? How can they join your networking group that you have?
The best way to get a hold of me, if you could see my name, my complete name is Pablo Fabricio with a Z right there. If you see that name, Pablo Fabricio Valle, That is my website. That is how I appear in every social media across LinkedIn, Twitter, which I really don't use that much, but I have Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Look for me with my name. Going to my website, PabloFabricioValle.com, and you could get access to my network, to my radio, to my books that I've written. So you could get connected with me. And the most important thing is I am available. If anyone has any questions, any concerns, I am here, because one of the things that I am most passionate about is serving people, serving my community, serving the small business community, and helping one another. Because you know what, when I needed it the most, I always had someone that helped me. I always had a mentor that was always there for me. And worst case scenario, if you cannot find a mentor, go to YouTube. Go to YouTube, find a motivational speaker. There's many people out there that you could begin following on Facebook. But if any questions, if you're locally here in Houston or anywhere in the world that you're going to listen to this video, this program, this great program, FinLit Live, if you have any concerns, any questions, feel free to connect with us. Feel free to touch base with FinLit, with my good friend Darnold. And always don't forget to share, comment, and like below. And most importantly, make sure to subscribe to Donald's channel.
I appreciate that. Man, you're doing my job for me. I appreciate that. That's so cool. Well, I appreciate you once again for being on the show, and thank you for sharing some fire. Oh my gosh. And I look forward to continuing our relationship. This is just the beginning. It's crazy because we actually met at a networking event. So that was just perfect segue for the show. So he is the godfather of networking. So if you need any advice, any tips, tricks about networking, reach out to Pablo and he'll be happy to help you. Check out his website. Also subscribe to his show. He has his own show that he didn't even mention, but he has his own show that he's about to go live here in 3 minutes, or record here in 3 minutes. So we got to get him off the show. So I appreciate you for being on.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Like you said, this is just the beginning. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate what you're doing with your channel.
Absolutely. We're going to have you back on the show in the near future.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm Darnold Jr., and the reason I started this show, FinLit Live, is because when I was a kid, money and things like that were a taboo in our family. And so I feel like I even have a Baylor business degree, and even having a Baylor business degree, I feel like they didn't discuss money and personal finances specifically. So that's why I started the show, is because I'm the expert at insurance. I've been doing it over 11 years now, but I stay in my lane and I know a lot of people. So I want to bring them on, pick their brains as far as different personal finances, from real estate to cryptocurrencies to how to network effectively, and ask them questions. And then I open it up to you guys where you can ask any questions that you have to the guests. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and definitely stay tuned for the next show so that we could get financially lit.